It's the fourth and possibly final week of the building team's work on lowering the floors and strengthening the walls. And with the concrete reinforcement work now behind us, the focus is on some work to finish the walls and some final rock clearing. But I don't know if we're going to finish with just 5 days of work. And I'm not sure how much help I'm going to need to provide if some of the team are away and some are working on another site. So I got here early on day one to make sure things were ready for a quick start. When the team arrived, the first task was to unload some scaffolding for wall work that day. And then we moved on to taking away the formwork from the concrete we left to set over the weekend. With the team down to 3, I had offered to help wherever they wanted, and the first task I was given was removing rock near this wall edge to make space for the brickwork. Next, I was back on well water duty, and then Photo wetted the bricks for the upcoming work. Then, with the team wanting one of my power tools that was upstairs, it was time to put in place the temporary stairs solution. After the morning break, I checked on the brickwork progress. And then moved on to the next task I had been given of clearing away rock right up to and then under the edge of the wall, which was the first of many wall clearing tasks I would be asked to do this week. For this first bit of work, I was pretty careful, and I was also looking to lift out rocks that we could place straight back in as stones in the wall. While I was making reasonable progress chipping away at the wall, the brickworkers were progressing up the wall and now started to need the scaffolding. And then on my way out for lunch, I was called back to deliver some more cement to them. As part of the wall clearing work, I now needed to clear out under the doorway edges, so we needed to prop the sides to make sure they kept their form during this work. Next up, I was a hod carrier delivering the team more bricks. The next day started with a visit from the architect and Technico to review the work done, but we ended up spending more time talking about the stairs plans. After the meeting, I checked the team's good progress with the bricks. And then I was back on well water duty, wall chipping work, and then coffee brewing for Semi. Followed by a long stint of careful chiseling and hammering to remove 15 centimeters of bedrock from under the wall to enable regular shaped stones to be added to the base of the wall. Okay. Mats? No, I can clear it then. 12 centimeter is maximum. After a visit from Enric, it was decided that making a small concrete base that would be below the future floor line would make it much easier to build up the wall where I had removed the rock. So the concrete making and formwork made an unexpected return. And at the end of the day's work, we left the concrete to set overnight. At the start of the next day, I got round to eventually replacing the soles in my boots, which was clearly needed. And although my boots felt pretty new, they didn't match the new shoes sported by two of the team that morning. First up, they needed to unload a bit more sand after the unexpected concrete plans for the remaining wall work. And then we all got back into our respective brickwork, concrete inspection, and wall chipping work. And with the concrete base well set, Semi started adding stones to the base of the wall, and bricks started to be added to the first doorway edges. When I was outside, I noticed that Photo had attracted a swallowtail with his cement mixing, but I had to wait a bit for it to return in order to capture it on film. Then I was back taking rock from under the next wall and the doorway edges, with increasing confidence in the wall's abilities to withstand harder impact. Enric's visit had delayed my lunch break a little bit, but afterwards I was back into the group as we all worked on the walls and floors in this corner. One of the times that I was dropping rocks outside, I noticed a change on the horizon that looked like a sandstorm, but I then found out it was actually smoke from the giant fire in southwest France, about 200 kilometers away. Back inside, with the wall edges brickwork complete, we could now remove the prop and the rocks below it. The builders hadn't believed that the prop was really necessary, but had agreed to the technical architect's prudent request. Then it was time for putting in another concrete wall base before the end of the day. And a closer examination of Semi's smart new working shoes. The next day we were back into our roles, although down to just 3 of us because of commitments elsewhere. After the break, I was looking for some interesting or different rock types that could be placed between the bricks on one of the wider doorway edges. And then I was back to removing rock with the power chisel, confident that these walls were very strong with all the concrete around them. With the wall chipping done, Photo and I moved on to the floor tidying work. First, clearing the rocks I had left inside in case they could be used in the walls. And then heading into the back room to remove rock right up to the edges of the concrete and get all the floor down to the target level I had reached in the centre with my digging work in previous weeks. For lunch, I had some pizza in the shade, but I was more excited by these fritillary butterflies. And I was definitely more excited by the butterflies than the prospect of some more digging and clearing. On the last day of the week, I was delighted to see Sam was back on site to help with the rock clearing. And we all got straight back into the work on the door edges with the bricks and the rock clearing work. We now had pretty much finished the work in the back room, and we moved on to working on the other rooms, ensuring that we had cleared to the target depth and then spreading the gravel type rocks as the first layer in the base. Having 3 of us working on the rock clearing sped things up a lot, but I had accepted by the middle of the week that we will be back next week to finish off this job. I was a bit frustrated by this, but I couldn't fault the team's efforts or the quality of their stone and brickwork. For once, I didn't manage to capture the guys leaving, so I think they might have been in a bit of a hurry to get somewhere. But that is the end of the 4th week, and after a lot of hard work, we've not quite finished. But the pile of rocks over here has grown a bit more than I expected and has started worryingly moving towards this entrance space here. While the pile of bricks here has gone down because a lot of them have now been used inside, and I haven't had any time to actually do any cleaning or recycling on these other ones. And that's because of all the work that's been going on in here, where this first space is now looking a little bit different and a bit more open after the work bricking up the edges all the way up to the beam. And because these wall edges are now holding up the beam, we've been able to take the prop out here, clear the earth from underneath, and make this opening pretty much how it's going to be in the future, although the edges of these walls will be given a stone-clad finish. This space has still got plenty of things in it, which we will need to move early next week, while the walls in these corners have now been completely cleared up to the edge. This one has been given a concrete base and this stone finish at the base, where we had to cut about 15 centimeters out from underneath this wall, but which I think now looks pretty beautiful and leads all the way up to the corner where this entrance to the back room has been given its new brick edge all the way down to the base on both sides. And in this back room, we have cleared the rock all the way up to the edge, and then we've smoothed out all the floor with the gravel so that it's pretty much ready now for reinforced concrete in a month or so's time. While the entrance to this middle room has also now got its brick edges all the way down to the bottom, and we have started clearing the rock up to the edge and a path through the middle, but we've got a little bit more work to do to clear the rock down to its target level that we will then add that layer of gravel to. And it's the same with these 2 back rooms. The entrances have now got the brick edges done, but we've got to do the rock clearing up to the edge and then level it out, which I think is probably going to take a couple of days at the beginning of next week. So in next week's video, I really should be able to show you the end result. So I hope to see you then.